Gosh, here we go again.
On a lonely planet slowly spinning its way to damnation, amid the incompetence and unpreparedness of lesser space programs, one team stands resilient against the herds, putting their lives on the line to aid those who were previously unaware of the quick save option. Yes, it's the incredible adventures of Jebediah and his crack team of Kerbinauts. They are the Blunderbirds, saving the Kerbin race one stranded explorer at a time.
Well, it has been quite some time since I did one of these, but boy does it feel good to be back in the saddle. Yes, I came across the rather heartbreaking Reddit post from user Skefson detailing their tragically stranded first Mun mission and their blundered attempt at a rescue, and so I felt it was time to dust off the old Blunderbirds rescue service, acquire the save file, and see if I can't bring back the stricken spacefarers stuck somewhere succinctly severed from said Strandy's starting settlement spaceport. So, we have 3 Kerbals to rescue from the Mun, but this is in a save file that's only partway through the science mode tech tree, so we only have limited parts to work with. I'll need a ship with 4 seats, 3 for the stranded crew, 1 for the rescuer to ensure that the strandees are all okay, offer counselling, and of course plant a rescue flag. But with Skefson's current tech level, this will be tricky. I couldn't really think of an elegant design with just the 1-seat and 2-seat Mercury and Gemini style capsules, and I longed for my beloved 2.5 meter parts. But then it occurred to me to check Skefson's tech tree, and upon doing this, I discovered we were a mere 60 science points short from being able to unlock some of the better crew modules, and so I created this magnificent untitled spacecraft consisting of just a lander can and some science bits, and I launched it to the runway, which is its own biome in KSP1, and we actually managed to gain a pretty large chunk of science from this. I then did the same again on the launch pad and, well, long story short, I managed to squeeze just enough science points out to unlock the 3-seat Apollo-style command module and the 2-seat lander can pod, perfect for what I need. And with that, we could begin construction of the rescue rocket. Now, I started with this kind of cursed looking design with the Apollo and Mercury style capsules forming a singular piece, but worry not, I do change this eventually because it looked, well, frankly, a little bit unsettling. But before we do that though, I built the rest of the rocket, and considering that we are a bit limited by our tech level, this couldn't really be anything too fancy, so it's a fairly standard 2.5 meter diameter vehicle with a skipper engine powered upper stage that'll get us to the Mun, and a mainsail powered core stage that'll get us to, well, space. The core stage will also be supported by 2 kickback solid rocket boosters for the initial phase of ascent. Now, if you're wondering what parts mods I'm using, these are actually all stock KSP parts, but I'm using the mod Restock, which upgrades the aesthetics of the stock Kerbal Space Program parts to make them look more in line with their real-life counterparts. But at its core, this rocket is completely stock. I think my favourite part of the vehicle's design was the way I managed to have the XL-size parachute and the launch escape system seamlessly placed on the nose cone of that Apollo-style command pod by kind of using some cubic octagonal struts to kind of offset 2 attachment nodes into each other. Thought it came out really nicely, and that's actually pretty much the end of the construction of this rocket, so let's go ahead and launch it. Ooh, I don't think modded KSP1 comes quite as close to KSP2 when it comes to the graphics and sound of a rocket launch, but I mean it does come pretty close with the amazing waterfall mod handling that beautiful engine plume, and look at that beautiful atmosphere and volumetric clouds thanks to BlackRack's incredible efforts with environmental visual enhancements and of course the volumetric clouds mod. I do think the atmosphere with these mods looks better in KSP1. Well, I think this atmosphere mod in KSP1 looks better than the stock atmosphere in KSP2. Fight me. Volumetric clouds are still a work in progress. They look a little bit kind of speckly when you're in space, but it's a work in progress, and you know, the progress so far is absolutely stunning. And there we are, just heading to space. I suppose can't really think of anything specific to mention about the rocket, although usually it's quite funny in my Kerbal Space Program videos. For the actual ascent of the rocket, I try and move the camera as little as possible because I do speed the footage up, and I worry that I'm moving the camera around loads. When the footage is sped up, it's going to make the footage a bit nauseating. But this time I did move the camera about quite a bit, just because I was frankly in awe of the volumetric clouds mod and, the beautiful atmospheric scatters. I was just soaking up the atmosphere. I thought, you know what, the viewers, they can suffer, to be honest. I don't care about their well-being this one time. And there goes the launch system. So you can sort of see what I meant about how that parachute is there. It was underneath the launch escape system, despite it not having its own attached node. By using the strut pieces, we were able to sort of jank it together, I suppose. And yeah, we're now on our our upper stage, I suppose, if you want to say that technically the first bit of the rocket that's gone was 2 stages, because first stage was the SRBs and then they detached, you left the core stage. But the second stage of the rocket's core, let's go with that, shall we, is the skipper engine. We're going to not only circularize around Kerbin with this stage, but it's also going to get us on a trajectory to the Mun. And at that point we're going to ditch it. We're going to make sure it's not getting left in space. I'm being very mindful about not leaving lots of debris this time, because this is not my save file. This is Skefson's save file, and so I want to make sure that when I send back the save with the Kerbals all rescued, peace is maintained, no debris is left, the solar bears remain unharmed. So we are circularized at Kerbin, so now we just need to zoom out, set the Mun as our target, and go ahead and plot ourselves a little maneuver that can get us there. So I've done about 10 billion of these things on this channel at this point, so you guys don't need me to explain how the maneuver node works. But you might have noticed that the maneuver node was much more visible than my last KSP1 video, and that's because I'm playing the game at 4K resolution, and at 4K resolution, stock Kerbal Space Program 1 doesn't really scale that well. I don't think it was ever really designed to run at 4K resolution. I mean, I forget when it started development, 4K was not really used by consumers, so it doesn't really scale too well. But Linux Guru Gamer, legendary modder, did actually create a mod that allows kind of more UI elements to scale correctly, such as the maneuver node and things like your apoapsis and periapsis markers. They scale much nicer, so I hope that it's now a bit more of an enjoyable experience watching these videos, because you can actually see what's going on. And anyway, whilst I was waffling just then, we've now done our maneuver to get us to the Mun. You might have noticed I put ourselves on a collision course, then I staged the skipper engine so that it will just crash into the surface of the Mun, not leaving debris. We then obviously activated the poodle engine of the lander stage and made sure we did a burn to correct that, so we ourselves would not crash into the surface of the Mun and instead can safely circularize. And we're doing this direct ascent. I was kind of tempted to do an Apollo-style mission for this, but really, Apollo-style, for the most part in KSP1, is actually less efficient, at least when it comes to Mun missions. Obviously, things like Eve and Tylo, yeah, it makes more sense to do Apollo-style, but usually for just a regular old Mun landing and return, it does actually just make more sense to do direct ascent. I just like doing Apollo-style more because it's just more fun, isn't it? A bit more of a challenge, and it's just cooler to like have an orbiting mothership that you go and visit. I don't know, maybe I'm being weird. For those that don't know the difference between direct ascent, by the way, and Apollo style, direct ascent is this. You just fly to where you want to go, land, and then return. Apollo style is in the style of, get this, the real-life Apollo missions, wherein the rocket launched to the moon, and then there was a separate spacecraft, the commander module, and then a separate landing spacecraft. The two would circularize at the moon, and then just the landing spacecraft would land and leave the commander module in orbit, and then it would do all the stuff on the surface, and it would return to the mothership, or the command module, in orbit, then the command module returns to Earth. Basically, you're like managing 2 spaceships, you gotta do orbital rendezvous and stuff, so it's a bit more difficult, but it is much more satisfying to pull off, in my opinion, and of course, it's a bit more faithful to the real-life moon missions. And of course, the moon, so far, is the only celestial body that humans have stepped on aside from Earth. We have done other missions to other places, but those have all been direct ascent, right? Because there's been no returns. Obviously, things like the asteroid return missions technically did, but not the whole spacecraft return. And those weren't Apollo style, so I don't even know why I'm even, mentioning them. Here we are, by the way, touching down on the surface of the Mun. I think we got pretty darn close to that crashed lander. But you know, as we touched down, well, first of all, I noticed that the lander was starting to wobble a bit on the spot, so I figured I should probably adjust the spring and damper strength settings to make it a bit more, you know, less floppy on the surface. And after that, I thought, you know what? I bet we could get a little bit closer to those Kerbals, because those stranded Kerbals, I don't know how long Skefson's had them stranded in that, you know, stuck vessel. They might have been there for years. We don't know what kind of level of atrophy their leg muscles have experienced. They might not be able to waddle all that far. And let's be real, Kerbals, they don't have the fastest walking speed anyway. So let's just try and hop ourselves to be a little bit closer. So here's my second attempt at getting a little bit closer to the stranded craft, and I think we couldn't have got much closer than this if we tried. Well, I mean, obviously if we tried, I could have just landed on top of the vessel, but that wouldn't have been all that productive because it could have just blown it up with the engine wash. So that's, I don't know why I'm needing to explain why I didn't choose to do that, but I didn't choose to do it for that reason. And now Valentina Cubbin can depart the, a bit of a weird oscillation from the camera just then. We can depart and plant a surface flag and inspect the area around the stranded site. Now, I am using the mod Parallax 2.0 by GamesLinks that adds all these beautiful kind of rocks to the surface of the Mun. I thought I had collision enabled. You can toggle collision on and off with Parallax 2, and I thought I had collision on, but I guess I don't. But you know, if you saw Valentina clip through those rocks and thought that looked a bit lame, you can toggle collision on them, so you won't they're solid objects basically. I definitely had that setting applied at some point because I've done videos on that. Oh my gosh, doesn't Jebediah look a bit cursed in that shot just there, playing a little bit of golf on the side of them? So I need to find that setting in Parallax and then re-enable collision. Maybe it was like an SSTO video and you want to be able to take off like a plane on the surface of a planet or moon with an SSTO, and it's a bit difficult when it's just littered with rocks. I can't remember why I disabled that setting, if I even did. But anyway, rambled our way through there. So now I'm just beginning the rather slow process of disembarking the Kerbals from Skefson's doomed Mun lander. There's only one hatch, so you kind of have to transfer them from the crew module into the command pod and then EVA them from there. For the last Kerbal to EVA, I actually decided to take the science from the command pod, that little Mercury style pod, just that, you know, I did use some of Skefson's hard-earned science points to kind of make my life a bit easier when it came to designing this rocket. So I do kind of owe Skefson 100 science points. 100 points was what he had before I started doing this mission. So I'd like to return to let me try that again. I'd like to return to Cubbin with at least 100 science points so that, you know, I'm breaking even. And with that, they're all on EVA. We've taken our selfies. We're ready to embark the rescue lander. And as you can see, we actually have an extra seat. So they're going to be spoiled for luxury here. They've got 5 seats in total. So I paused and said, yeah, 3 plus 2 is 5, isn't it? Maths, what can I say? Yeah, and then right before I got the very last Kerbal on board, I did say, oh, actually, there's some mystery goo containers there. Maybe I should just make sure I don't have to take any data from any experiments that are on this lander here. And there was nothing else to take apart from the mystery goo containment unit. I didn't actually check to see which biome it had been run in, like if it had been run from the surface of the Mun or not. I guess I could have just right-clicked my Kerbal and reviewed the stored data, but I thought, well, let's just get back on the lander, quickly run a temperature gauge experiment, and also run another mystery goo experiment, just so that we didn't have mystery goo from the surface of the Mun. Now we do. We can take the data and place it on the rescue lander. And that way, we can get some, like I said, I wanted to make sure we returned with science, as the Kerbal just so casually clips into a rock upon jumping off that vessel. And that's it. We're now done with all of the things we need to do on the surface of the Mun. And since this is a direct ascent mission, we haven't got a time warp and wait for our mothership to be in a suitable place above us. We can just go ahead and launch immediately, I guess. Which is obviously what I'm doing, just staring at the lander. Here we go. We are lifting off, and we are just going to go back home, I guess. Now, in my most recent Kerbal Space Program video, I went to Minmus to kind of embark on the first video of the next generation of Kerbal Space Program content on this channel. Now, I must qualify that because I don't know if that was the last video I did. I'm kind of working on 2 KSP videos side by side at the moment because I've got a very busy few weeks. I'm going to have limited time to make videos, so I'm kind of producing these 2 videos at once. I don't know which one's going to go live first. It's either going to be this one or one where I kind of play some goofy KSP1 missions that the community have made. Spoiler alert from future videos if this is the first one that you're seeing. But anyway, as I said, In my most recent KSP1 video, I mentioned that I was thinking about purchasing maybe an eye tracker that, you know, tracks where I'm looking on the screen. And then making a KSP video so you guys can see what I'm looking at when I'm playing. Might have been that it might help you kind of see what a, I'm doing the air quotes thing now because it sounds really narcissistic, but what a professional Kerbal Space Program player looks at when flying difficult missions. I was thinking maybe like doing an Eve return mission or something suitably challenging, so you can see what I'm looking at, because I'm guessing I'm basically just staring at the nav ball, staring at the altitude reading, and staring at those Kerbal Engineer readouts, and basically not even ever looking at the rocket. And someone suggested a channel that does similar eye tracking videos. I forgot the name of the channel. It began with D. I'm sorry, but basically they do goofy videos. There was one that was like, if every time I look at a character in Skyrim, I have to kill them, and just challenges out. I thought maybe that's a funny idea. The idea that came to my head immediately was that if I look at the rocket explodes. So I'll see if I can do an entire mission without ever looking directly at the rocket, lest it explodes. I don't know if it's possible to kind of code a mod that makes sure that the rocket does explode if I ever make eye contact with it, or if I just reset the mission and just play like a goofy, like a green screen explosion. I don't know. But yeah, do you have any other ideas for like funny ways in which I could implement an eye tracker into Kerbal Space Program 1 content? Then do let me know in the comments below. But yeah, as you can see, we are once again reaching these beautiful stock volumetric clouds. And look at that, is it the Mark 16 XL parachute? I think that's the name of the part. You'd think I would know the names of the parts at this stage in my Kerbal Space Program career, wouldn't you? But what can I say? It's actually 3 parachutes rather than just the 1 parachute, but this is only 1 component. It just deploys 3 chutes now, like visually, if that makes sense. And there we are. We have splashed down in the beautiful ocean, again courtesy of the Scatterer mod that makes the water look like that. And normally at this point I would start rolling the credits and talk about my Patreon and all that, but we still have one more thing to do in this mission. That is recover the vessel and see if we earn Skefson a few little science. Look at that, 412 science now in total. So I think we've more than paid back the science we had to spend to unlock those new parts. Granted, most of that science came from science experiments that Skefson ran, but Skefson couldn't return the science. So let's call it a joint effort, shall we? So yeah, that is the end of the video now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this grand. I can't believe how long it's been since I did Blunderbirds. Like I don't think I ever actually did Blunderbirds in KSP2 aside from rescuing my own mission. So there we are. Thank you for watching, and big thanks to the names on the left, my Patreon supporters and channel members who make all this possible. Goodbye.